Hello everyone, my name's Yvonne. I have been wanting to do this for a while, and a friend of mine sort of gave me some, I guess, ideas about how to put this together. So I want to thank her before we go any further. I wanted to talk to you about tarot readings, timing, those sort of things, because we get a lot of questions about, when will this happen? This reading doesn't sound like something that's going to happen. Will it happen for me? And a lot of things that really we're only delivering the messages that Spirit brings through. So we may not be able to answer you at a very high level answer, but you may get some indications through a reading of what Spirit is trying to say. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of how to work out, what applies to you, what doesn't, who is the best reader for you, and hopefully this will sort of guide you in a better direction for yourself without questioning. So first off, I want to say that a lot of the reading in tarot is based not only in the 3D but also in the 5D. What does that mean? Okay, so 3D is where we live on the physical plane, and the 5D is about where we are on the spiritual plane. So what can happen sometimes is a reading can be in the 5D and only in the spiritual plane. At other times, the readings may be in the 3D and only in your physical plane, which means that they may be part of your everyday process. But many, many readings are a combination of both. So there's a lot of, what you're doing in your day-to-day life balanced out with what Spirit has planned for you, what is ahead on your personal journey, or what you're feeling at a much deeper level, or what even the other person you're dealing with, whether that be a family, friend, or someone you know, even a potential suitor, lover, friend. And it goes to their feelings as well. So when we're talking in a tarot reading, we're covering all of those bases. Spirit will let us know. Now, for some people, they draw from the energy of the cards. Some people read the tarot cards as a reading. Other readers are intuitive, which means they use their own messages from their spirit guides to come through. And some people, like myself, who are mediums, we get the messages direct from Spirit. So we may put the cards out, but actually, in effect, we don't need the cards. We're already getting the messages through. It's just not as visual to use messages coming through with it. People like to see the cards. I'm only going to be honest with you in this. People like to see you doing something. It doesn't mean quite the same if they are not seeing what you're getting. And if you talk to them about something that you are feeling, sometimes people will say, how do you know that? It's the messages that are coming through. It may not be the card in front of me, may not be what you see as the message. So you have to trust when you're watching a reader. Now, sometimes readers will resonate with us, or they will feel really good to us. We will feel really comfortable with them, and other readers we just don't feel a connection with. And that's okay. That is why there are so many readers out there who speak differently, talk differently, resonate with you differently, have different messages. Some tarot readers will talk about your personal energy, where you are on your journey, and how to self-develop. Other readers will talk about your past, and a lot of readers will talk about what's coming in for you in the future. There are also tarot readers who do all of those, or a mixture. That's why the pick a card readings are so popular, because you have some insight or some power over what you're choosing. What is really important to understand is that anything within tarot and an intuitive reading is fluid. So it can appeal to one person, be one person's story only. It could be the story of a dozen people, or it can be a reading that resonates with hundreds of people, or the collective as we call it. And when we're talking about the collective, we're talking about people who've gone through some sort of a spiritual awakening and are most likely watching the readings on YouTube, trying to understand their personal journey, where they need to change themselves, or areas they may need to work on in their life, or to seek answers. And we know that Spirit brings answers through too. So what this means when you're looking at a tarot card reader is you need to understand what's resonating and what's not. Now, I've had people say to me sometimes, about what does resonate mean? And most of us sort of have a basic understanding of resonate. When we're looking for particular things within a reading, we might want a reading to say, you're just about to find your dream job, and somebody's about to offer you $1 million. You're about to find the partner of your dreams. And those are the sort of things sometimes we want to sit down and hear. But sometimes the messages we get through aren't about those things. So you have to sort of be a little bit selective on, is this reading for me? Is this reading what I want to hear? Or is this reader not telling me what I want to hear? And if that's the case, you move on to another reader. Or, as I always say, check out other aspects of your natal chart. And what that means is sometimes, even though we are a sun sign, like you may be a Scorpio sun sign, and that's the sign you generally watch, underlying that are a lot of other signs within your chart. And I've heard some people say sometimes you have everything in your chart. Well, no, you don't. And I've looked at people who have absolutely no water in their chart. I've seen people with all fire in their chart. So it's sort of, you've got to be a little bit discerning there. And if you go and do your natal chart through one of the charts, all you've got to do is Google natal chart. You put in your details. Now, the only thing that may not come up for you if you do not have your time of birth is your ascending or rising, in which case you still get the rest of your natal chart. But extremely important at different times with astrology are your moon sign, your ascendant or rising, depending on what you're calling that, and also your Venus. Very, very important, because sometimes those readings will fit your story more because of where you are and where the planets are aligned in the sky at that time. So that's why we always say to you, check out other aspects of your natal chart. Now, when you're listening to a reading, there is a real need for you to trust your intuition. If the reading does not feel like it's yours, you know fairly soon into the reading that it's not my reading. It's not what I want to hear. But that doesn't mean it's not wrong. It doesn't mean it isn't true. It could be something that's going to happen into your future. And for many, people will say, but that's already happened to me. Any one of those things is okay. Any one of those things is fine. So we always say you need to trust your intuition. When you're trusting your intuition, what you're saying to yourself is, I'm going to listen. If it doesn't feel like my story, I'll move on and I'll see. Because sometimes the reading doesn't fully resonate, but there's enough of the messages in there that may help you to move forward on your path. So checking out your natal chart is very important, because a lot of the time your moon sign will be far more dominant than your sun sign. Or if you're looking for a love reading, you will always want to check your Venus, because your Venus represents how you love, how you receive love, how you give love. And some of those readings are going to resonate more for you if you're looking for love. If you're looking for work, you might want to check out where your Saturn is in your work, but always check out where the planets are in your sign to be able to follow up what to read. Some people watch every one of them in their sign, in their natal chart, and that's okay too. Sometimes if you watch too many videos though, there is sort of a bit of a worry that you might get confused. Some people might say something's going to happen and other people might say it's not. None of them are wrong. What it might mean is someone's looking into the time period of now and someone else is looking into the future. So it's not necessarily wrong. It just doesn't resonate with you at that time. And that means your intuition is telling you that that is not my reading. Now, what else we can look at is the fact that readings may be the past, present, or future. They can be current energy or potential energy on your path. So remember, when you're watching them, sometimes they may take weeks to come true. We may call it a daily read, but it may not happen for several weeks. So you've got to be really sort of fluid in your understanding. And this means using your objectivity. So you've got to say, well, okay, that doesn't feel right for me at the moment, but it might be a reading I want to come back to later. This is why we recommend, if you are really wanting to have answers, then you need to look at, having a personal reading or having an understanding. But to be honest with you, sometimes I do a personal reading and it will be all about the person in the present. Sometimes I'll do a personal reading and it will take me to the future. So again, even in a personal reading, you may not hear everything you want to hear. It's what Spirit knows you need on your journey. That's why you have to be objective. If it isn't true in the moment, it may come true later on. I've had readings that have taken 3 years to come to fruition, actually longer than 3 years. So you have to be understanding of that as well. Timing is fluid. As I said, it can be a week, a month, it can be 6 months down the track. And people often say to me, what is divine timing? Why? Sorry. Why is this not coming true for me at the moment? And when I talk about divine timing, the easiest way to allow you to understand that, it's because you're not vibrating at where you need to be in the universe to receive what is there for you. So somebody might say to you, you're going to get a job in 6 weeks, and 6 weeks comes past and you still haven't got the job. So you're like, somebody was wrong. Well, no, what often happens is you are so focused on the outcome of getting the job. Your energy is so focused on that and not focused on working on yourself or doing other things to distract yourself. So the main thing to remember is that if you are focused on outcomes or desires rather than allowing time to pass, then sometimes you can sort of slow the process down because you're not using the time to increase your awareness of spirituality. So when people say, when something's coming in and I say, 3 months away, I always say to people, 3 months away, but in that time you need to be doing things that make you happy. You need to be living your life as you would normally. If you're sitting around waiting for something to come to you, there's a chance that it may not come in the time frame you're asking for it. Does it mean it still won't come? No, because it will come when it's ready. But you have to be vibrating at the level of that particular thing. If you're dealing with another person and you're waiting for a person to come in, a love to come in, or a relationship to come to fruition, then it may mean that both parties need to be vibrating at the same frequency for that to happen. So you could put in all the work, you could do all the things that are required of you, but the other person may not be doing anything, which means they're non-receptive to spirituality. Now, my favorite thing that I always say to people is the universe is very patient. Spirit will wait. They will often give you a few pokes and say to you, need to be doing this, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this, and you don't listen. You don't listen. So you're getting the call, you're getting the messages through about what you need to do, but sometimes you just don't listen. And I always say Spirit only pokes you so many times with a stick, and then they will throw the stick at you. And that is where we see tower moments. We see the breaking down of things like devil energy, because of the fact we're hanging on to something that's not serving us. And if we're resisting the messages from the universe, then often we get pushed to do that. And it can sometimes come in a very sort of disruptive way. And sometimes it can come in a very gentle way with an epiphany or a realization that you're not going anywhere where you are. And sometimes that will mean you will cycle. So if people talk about cycles, you will understand what you're doing is you're doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. And that doesn't work either. Sometimes we can be cycling by going through the same emotional state or the same way of expressing ourselves over and over and over, and nothing changes. So the universe will often sort of intercede or intercept and say, well, okay, that maybe you need to look at these patterns now to see how you can do things differently. So hence we have a lot coming up in our readings at the moment around patterns, cycles, and changing the way we do things. So what you need to remember ultimately is a reading will resonate with you where you are in alignment on your spiritual journey. Some people are very awake, very aware, and very responsive to what Spirit has to offer. And for others of you, you may only be just starting your journey out, and you may not have as much experience with spirituality. It may be the first time you've had a tarot reading or the first time you've watched a reading. And the understanding may not be as clear to you, hence why I'm doing the video for you. So it's really important to understand where you are on your journey, and where the readings resonate may not align at the moment until you've moved further down the track and you have a little bit more understanding of your own spiritual awareness. Now, it's really important with all readings, regardless of what the readings say, is not to have what we call an attachment to an outcome. So, for example, somebody says you're going to have a job next week. So every moment between now and next week is focused on that outcome. And that's attachment, and that comes up as devil energy as well. So you're attached to some sort of outcome or some sort of result. The idea of messages from Spirit that you're receiving, or the ones we are delivering, is that you take them in your stride and you move with them. So if they do not come through in a period of time, it's not really an issue. Spirit does not have a time. Time is a human concept. Unfortunately, we expect things to happen very quickly. And sometimes we're being taught about patience. We're being taught that something is there for us, but it may take a little while to come to us, because we need to learn how to accept that particular message. We need to learn how to go about our business, do the things that make our heart happy, do the things that make our heart sing, in order for us to understand, that something is on our pathway, yes, but it may not always come in the way, shape, or form that you think it should. So a lot of the time, something will be told to you, and then later on you look back and you think, well, that did happen. It just didn't happen the way it was supposed to have done. So it may be, for example, you may be asking to be able to afford a car by the end of the month. And Spirit will come through and say, there is a car here for you by the end of the month. And you're like, great, okay. So you're focused on getting, a blue sedan. And then all of a sudden at the end of the month, something happens and you're offered another car that is not blue and is not a sedan. So let's say a black station wagon, for argument's sake, and that comes through. But are you disappointed? Is it something you're going to feel sad about? Probably not. But maybe you somewhere on your path, you felt that you deserved a blue sedan, and you might be disappointed that you didn't get what you wanted. But Spirit knows best. So I would say to people, Spirit knows best. Sometimes what you ask for is not the best thing for you. And that's really important to keep in mind too. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind is some of us feel very, very comfortable with trusting destiny, trusting what is meant for us on our path, because we have this feeling that things are divine, that we are destined for certain things and they are written into our records long before we come here. Other readers, mediums, intuitive people may have an understanding of what they call free will. So they may see you as being able to change your destiny or move in a different direction. So there's also a little bit of difference between the way some people read and some people interpret the messages. So if you're not sure about that, it's always good to ask. Of course, we don't always have the privilege of being asked when we're on YouTube. But if you have a personal reading, very often that will look different for you. Can you resist something? Well, of course you can. And some people see that as free will. I don't. I see it as already being written into your destiny that you will refuse that. But again, that's an argument that we could have till the cows come home and we're not going to agree on. So all readers are different. Some of us are very, very similar in the way we deliver messages. Some of us are very aligned with our spiritual journey, but then some of us are much older and much more experienced at doing this work. That doesn't mean we're any better than anyone else. It doesn't mean we are in any way, shape or form more more special, more in tune, because I've met people who've been very much younger than myself who are so absolutely spiritual aware. So that doesn't matter at all. It's what feels good for you. So if a reading doesn't fit with you, then it obviously wasn't meant for you. And the best thing you can do is have a look at another reader or even another aspect of your natal chart. And at the very least, some weeks, none of the messages will resonate. And that means, you're just not part of the collective, or your energy's not as strong as what we're picking up on. That doesn't mean you're not part of the collective. I probably should phrase that differently. It doesn't mean that you are not part of the collective. It just means that your energy isn't as strong at that particular time. So it may mean you have to wait till next week to get a message through. And for most people, what messages you need to hear will come through in a personal reading. But even then, sometimes you can do a personal reading for someone and they're not happy with it, and they may decide it's not their reading, even when it's personally delivered. And that may mean they're not in the right place at that time. It may mean the reading is a long way ahead and they're not feeling it. But for whatever reason, it can even happen with a personal reading. So I hope this has helped you out. I know for a lot of people, they've been asking me these questions, and I think it's really important I get them through to you. But for whatever reason, just remember to be objective, not to attach to the outcomes. So take them in your stride. Be really selective in what it is you want to hear and what you don't want to hear, and that's okay too. If you feel part of the message resonates but the rest of it doesn't, that's okay too. Some of those messages are coming through from Spirit because you need to hear them, but they may not be everything you need to hear. But definitely, if a reading isn't for you and it's not fitting your story, for example, you're married and they're talking about new love coming in, unless you've got a really unhappy marriage, then it's probably not your reading. But it doesn't mean you can't watch it and take from it what you would, may benefit from. It just means that it may not be your reading at that time. So I'll leave it with you there. I hope this has helped you out, and please have a wonderful day. And remember, it's okay if you don't resonate with a reading, and it's okay if you do. It's okay if you resonate with a reader, and it's okay if you don't. It's entirely up to your intuition. Trust your intuition. It knows best. Thank you.